Hellfire and the Fall of Empire, a solo campaign by Jim Webster for use with the Hellfire Miniature Rules campaign. We have not been using the miniature rules. We've been relying on some limited language models to run some battles for us, and man, are they dumb. I mean, the nice thing about them is that they're suitably random. You never know what you're going to get. And unlike a sewer, what you get out of them doesn't really depend on what you put into them. So we're going to call a halt on the what they branded as AI. It's just programs. It's Doom. Just a little more complicated. Not impressed, got to tell you. We did, 4 battles with those? I guess it was fine, but I need to find a better solution for that. And we'll do that eventually, but we're not doing battles today. Today, we are in, as always, the Hippos Empire, and finally, oh my goodness, we have all 10 cities. Well, kind of. The problem is, last year, we had to liberate Damascus and Pella. And by the way, here is a lovely picture of Pella. I threw this into the last video, but without telling you what it was, I think it was pretty obvious, particularly for those of you from Iowa. This is my representation of what our city of Pella in the Decapolis means. Now, it's called, the Decapolis was the old name for it. The new name is Hippos, and that's because our capital, as was represented by the card draws, was the city of Hippos on the sea. And I don't know, maybe it's we should have now, in retrospect, we should have made this like, maybe this is a Mediterranean style. Maybe there's hippos in the water, and that's why it's like their thing. But I'll tell you what our thing is. Our thing is complicated logistics and a complicated year. So let me grab a freshly sharpened pencil and a heap and pack of dice, and we can run down the checklist. I went to the trouble of writing everything down, and let me just give you a little snapshot view of what the year might look like. It is the year 2951, and it's a dark year. Oh, I should be careful. That's the kind of thing that you say that gets you in trouble. Okay, so it's the year 2951. It is the second year of the reign of King Wargamius II, and that's important, which you'll see later. There is a 1 in 20 chance that your king dies every year. After 5 years, that falls to 1 in 10. After, I think, another 5, it falls to 1 in 8, and then to 1 in 6. So eventually, you are going to have a new king. This is now like the 7th year of this campaign. We had 4 or 5 good years. I think we're doing okay, right? We have a reserve of 187,500 credits. Last year was expensive. We've got a really solid military. We're going to have to run some numbers. Well, I can just run them right now. The military budget, given what we got in our hands, is 135,000 kilocredits for wages. But we are going to have to pay 3,000 kilocredits for replacements. That's for all the men and materiel that we lost in 2950. And then I forgot, I should be paying the Unpopular Front. This is that company of infantry supported by 1 light tank. The little Unpopular Front. They're from the Popular Front, who we beat up last time. But they're really a mercenary company, so that's why we call it the Unpopular Front. And, oh, by the way, here is another poster. This is like their recruiting poster or their advertising. Guns for hire, cheapest rates around. I hope that doesn't get me flagged on the algorithm. Whether or not it does, that means that our total expenditures, just straight out of the gate, just for wages, are going to be 144 kilocredits. And that might be a problem. We need to figure out what our income is, and that's going to depend on the results of some of these checks. So let's start, first of all, because remember, each of these cities, so Hippos has a population of 11. There's a 1 in 3 chance that the people in Hippos go, man, we lost 2 cities and we had to spend a whole bunch of money. Heck with this, I am remigrating. Remigrating is the word for 2025 in our universe. And let's see, on a 1 or a 2, no. So Hippos stays at 11. But then we have to check for Gadara, Pella, and Philadelphia. These, of course, are the financial centers. And as the money leaves, as the trade dries up, the financial boys are going to head out as well. So I have to roll 3 times, and this is a 1 in 6 chance. So I'm going to roll first for Gadara. Now, I am going to double the chances of that. Pella was held in hostile barbarian hands. They smell funny, they talk funny, they eat funny food. So the people of Pella are twice as likely to say, yo, the heck with this, I'm heading back for the safety of the Imperial Corps. And then Philly is going to be, that's Philadelphia over here. They are also going to have a 1 and 6. So I'm looking for a 1 or a 2, or a 1. So on a 1, no. On a 1 or a 2, yes. And on a 1, no. So Pella is going to drop to 7. That's the current population of Pella. There are limits. So we'll say Pella shrinks. Pella is the Detroit of... Well, no, because that would be a manufacturing town, right? We need to check for Scythopolis, Dion, and Kanatha. In that order, looking for 1s, and Kanatha. All right, so our Kanatha, our industrial center is good. All those blue-collar workers, they want to make Decapolis great again. But we do need to check for Rafana, Gerasa, and Damascus. These are the artsy-fartsy towns, the university towns. And again, because Damascus was held in the hands of the Tilian Republic, because it's a university town, that means that they are just knee-jerk reaction against the ruling authority while they're not calling the shots, which they're not, because it's my empire. So they say, oh, geez, you know, if these fascists in Hippos are going to be in control, then we're going to leave. So kind of the opposite of what happened in Pella. So for Damascus, that'll be the third die roll. It's going to be a 1 and 3. So 1, Gerasa shrinks by 1, and Damascus also shrinks by 1. So Gerasa and Damascus are both smaller by 1. So Gerasa is going to fall. Well, Damascus is going to shrink to 6. They can only fall to half their size. So Damascus goes to 4, we stop. Gerasa was at 13. It's going to fall to 11. So yeah, the artistes are a little too effete for the violence of this region. And I guess Damascus probably makes sense. You know, they're lovers, not fighters. They're not interested in pushing back the hordes, so they have left. Now the problem with that is that with a reduction in our population of 3, we will see a concomitant reduction in our income. You get 200 credits per month per income, but I have to recalculate this through the magic of editing. As part of my logistics, I do have this population chart. The original population is on the right. The current population is on the left. Recall that our population started at 100, bringing in 20,000 credits a month. We have lost a total of 8 population. Almost 10%, well, 8%. Easy to do the math on that one, right? Giving us a total population of 92,000, which means we only get 18,400 credits a month. Multiply that by the 10 productive months that we have, and that's plus 184, which ordinarily would wind up giving us a 40,000 kilocredit surplus. So our budget for this year, the most we can spend is 184 kilocredits. We're going to spend, because I'm a little nervous, but before we decide what we're going to spend the money on, we do have the option of checking the future. We're going to look into the future. We are using our spy network to find out what's going on, and the first thing we have to check is there is a 1 in 3 chance that one of the Imperial units withdraws. To remind you what that is, we have a tube artillery battery. That is our high-tech boys with the electronic countermeasures. We have the 447th Support Recon Battalion. And then I don't care, I have one of my own. That would actually save me money. Unless I have to fight in 2 battles in the same month across the map, that could be a problem. But this is the big one, Aircraft Squadron. Oh boy, if I have to replace those guys, that's pricey. So I'm hoping they stick around. But hey, there's a 66 and 6 repeating chance that nobody leaves. The good news is, because we are so disconnected from the Empire, if one of these units leaves, then you're only going to lose D4-2 companies. Although, if the aircraft squadron leaves, because it's going to be all of them, to be honest with you. I'm not going to roll for that. It's just going to be, yeah, the Navy comes by and says, oh, hey, we need these planes. Yoink! All right. Where does that leave us? Does the unit withdraw? On a 1 or a 2? They do not with a 6. See, the longer these guys stick around, the more they are putting down roots in Hippos. And that's where our military is staged, by the way. That's kind of important. Then we have to check, as I was saying, does our governor die? And you have got to be kidding me. Okay, this is fine. Okay, so this is an interesting thing that happens. If you hear the rustling, that's Biscotti. He's keeping me company, by the way. But it is so unusual, I need to go to the rule book and show you how that works. Apparently, the Hippopolitans, is that what we call them? They're not the only ones that have a Departamento Assassinorum. We have avoided a lot of barbarian raids by whacking their leaders. Apparently, what's good for the goose is good for the hippo because it's happening to us. Now, the good news is there's only a 1 in 6 chance that there is a disputed succession. That happens on a 1. Okay. Remember when I said the ill omens, right? Dark words? I'm actually not too disappointed. I mean, it's a little frustrating. I thought last year was rough. This next year, gonna be brutal because we do have the disputed succession. And that means we go to this section. A usurper enters play. And again, I'm gonna have to use the rules, review the rules on this because it's a little bit complicated. What we have on our hands is a civil war, as some of these cities support the old regime and some support the usurper. This actually flows narratively really well. The old regime couldn't even hold on to 2 of the 10 cities. They have suffered a debilitating lack of trust by the people. So some of these cities have decided to go off on their own. What I'm going to do, and just so we understand, I'm going to call the old guys loyalists and the usurpers men rebels. They're just words, okay? It's just labels. We're just seeing where things go. We're not, just so that we can talk efficiently about it. This is a judgment-free zone, and so we're just going to put those down. And so I'm going to deal, there's a red card, and the colors are going to be important here. Rafa and Dion. And then we'll do the same for Pella, Garasa, Philadelphia, Kanatha, and Damascus. And Kanatha drawing a joker gives us a possibility. Now, it is a red card, but it's going to be special. We need to figure out what that means. Here's the kicker. The big question is, I'm going to draw one more card, according to the rules, and this is the way that the regular military goes. Okay, but I'm going to put one important caveat in here. Remember that we said that we had just relieved Pella and Damascus. So I have forces in those 2 cities. Pella is going to go with the red cards. All of the forces in Damascus are going to go with the black cards. The Grey Horde who helped us, they've gone home. We don't need to worry about them. And then the only other thing we need to think about is our mercenary unit. Our mercenary unit, remember that one little unit of unpopular front? They're in Damascus. So they're going with the black cards. That's the way they want to go. Although maybe we could spend some extra money to hire them back or turn them traitor. I don't know. Maybe get a little too ahead of myself, but this is going to be big. This card will decide which way the main army goes. Is it going to go with the black cards? There's 5 of them, or the red cards? Kapow. So the regular military forces are going to go with the rebels. So Hippos, I think we just have to say that the Hippos, that's our capital. That's where the Wargamius III rules from. But now he has to deal with the fact that 5 of his cities have gone full rebel, and a lot of forces are stuck in Damascus. So what else does this mean? Well, the next thing we look at is before I get to the actual suits and numbers here, bear in mind that if you had taxes cranked way up, late 10, 12, 15 years into the campaign, if you are hurting for cash, you can crank taxes, you can double them, make a lot more money. But if you do that and you run into this situation, the rebels can demand a redraw on 2 cities. So in this case, Team Black can say, you know what, I want you to redraw for Kanatha to get rid of this wild card, and I want you to redraw for Hippos and find out. Because if this had been a black card, then there'd be a very real chance that, in this case, you could make an argument that the legitimate rulers, the son of the previous ruler, is now in exile. He had to flee Hippos as the secret police were coming after him. Okay, and it makes it, hey, maybe these are the guys that assassinated the old king for being so terrible at his job. That's another narrative path that we could take. But as I said, there's a little bit more going on here because what only mattered was the color card. Now we worry about the suit. The legitimate successor suit, oh, I got this wrong. The legitimate successor suit is the one that the army drew. So the army drew spades. If this was a heart, Then the usurper's suit is spades. If there's a diamond, so the clubs is pairing diamonds and spades hearts. Okay, so spades is the loyalists, and the army is with them. Oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. The army is with the old guy, and the hearts is going to be the usurper's personal. So the usurper comes from Gerasa and Pella and Scythopolis up here. So the riverine cities north of here. And that's really what it looks like. But they managed to subvert and turn Kanatha against these guys. So we're looking at kind of a which city is this? Philadelphia? Yeah, we're looking at kind of a east versus west situation here. Those who share the same color are loyal enough to pay taxes, but if the other side's forces enter the city, they'll just surrender. Ah, there you go. So our legitimate ruler had to flee Hippos, and he had to get to, probably not Damascus, he probably ran to Dion. That's the most popular one. So he had to set sail. They probably fled in the middle of the night, took the family jewels, gripped them in both hands, and then sailed over to Dion. That's where they are right now. So Dion and Damascus and Philadelphia are safe havens. But if the usurper can get into Gerasa or what was that one? Oh, wait a minute. Dion is the one. He had to flee to Gadara, it looks like. I'm losing track of my cards. Let me write them down on my sheet, and we'll be right back. This is a little easier to read. The red joker is a special card. We're going to call this the Kanathan Regency. Remember, Kanatha got brutalized by a raid a couple of years ago. They've probably been planning this move for a while. That's going to be the seat of our rebellion. And not only that, but it's a safe seat. Remember, the hearts are the two safe cities that can't be taken. They're actually, yeah, so there's 3 cities here that can't be taken. They won't immediately surrender. They are fiercely loyal to the Kanathans. The real difficulty here is that we have to add up the population of all of our red cities. It turns out if you add those up, that equals 40 population. That income no longer comes to the Hippos Empire, the new Hippopolitans, right? Because Hippos is with the rebels. I guess I should write that down too. We decided that Gadara, as the highest ranking spade, oh yeah, you know what? We should do that. It's going to be Philadelphia, even though it's a fairly small, it's the highest ranking. So the king has run off to Philadelphia. So this is our new capital. And I'll just write new capital right there to remind myself. Reducing the population by 40 means reducing the income by 80,000 credits. And remember when I said that we've got a 40 kilocredit surplus? That becomes a 40 kilocredit deficit, putting our little empire here at just a war chest of just 104 kilocredits. Now, we can use our military to try to regain these cities. But in the meantime, we have a multi-faction game going here because the cities aren't going to sit tight. They're going to try to recruit forces of their own. And here's where the number on the cards comes into play. This is where the expeditionary forces begin to come to play. Remember that Pella, which is a red card, and Kanatha, which is a red card, we have recruited companies from these. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention where the rest of those, I think that's all of them. We've recruited from a number of these. So the Scythopolitans, the Hippopolitans only have 2, so we've only got so many companies to recruit from. But if we want to, we can call up expeditionary companies from cities loyal enough to fight. Right? So that's in the case of the rebels, that's the heart. In the case of the loyalists, that's the spades. You can also raise from those only loyal enough to pay taxes, but that if the taxes are low, again, if we had high taxes, they'd be like, no, I'm not fighting in your civil war. Look at the number of the card. You have to roll over that number on a D10 to raise a company. So the lower the number, right? And we can roll over a joker nice and easy. We can raise companies all day long from Kanatha. They got to be paid in advance if they're very high. If taxes are oppressive or worse, you have to roll over that number on a D6. Meaning, if your taxes are oppressive and you drew a red 7, they're not going to fight for you. That city's going to sit this one out. Now, they will have their home defense militia will still fight for you, but they're not going on an expedition. So we have some serious challenges ahead of us. Not to worry, though, because things can only get worse. We still have to roll to see how many barbarian tribes take advantage of our little civil war. 5. Well, at least it's not a 6. All right. Well, let's take a look at our map. And remember, so I've got 5 dice here. I'm going to roll 5d6. We'll zoom out just a little bit. And remember that for every 1 we roll, there's a force from the Macha. For every 2 for every 2 we roll, they don't show up. The Popular Front, that's the other thing I need to do. How many years will we not face the Tillians? That's what this line is here. And how many for the Popular Front? For the Tillians, we got 5 years apiece. For the Popular Front, we've got 3. That means that we only have, for every 5 and 3 that I roll on this handful of dice, nobody shows up. So lots of 5s, lots of 3s. Nope, we're going to get 2 strikes from the Macha, and we're going to get 1 strike from the Grey Horde. Maybe, well, that's interesting. Now, maybe we can hire these guys as mercenaries, but it's really going to add a lot more to the situation. So we'll just write down here, we've got Macha 1, we've got Macha 2, and we've got the Grey Horde, and we have to figure out what they're up to. So we turn our attention, as one does. Well, I think the first thing we have to do is we got to remind ourselves, and I wrote it down here. I actually thought that this was maybe a bit of an oversight on Jim's part. See, I put new head of state. So I'm just going to roll 1 time for the Macha on a 1 on a d6. Nope, we got a 4. So the Macha, they're all in. And then we have the same thing for the Grey Horde, except I have to roll a d10. On a 1 on a d10, the Grey Horde checks out. And an 8. Nope. I burned all of my 1s on hurting myself. Hey, not a problem. Okay, so I'm going to roll. The white die is for Machin 1. The black die is for Machin 2. We've got 2 forces coming to play. And I get a 3 and a 4. I guess it didn't really matter. So 3 and a 4, both of those forces can be bought off. Okay? Buy. And then for the Grey Horde, so both our loyalists and our rebels are going to have to deal with these guys in addition to everything else. Our rebels don't have any military forces to speak of. They're going to have to spend some of that 40 trying to get some kind of force together. In the meantime, we still have to check and see what the Grey Horde are doing. On a 1 or a 2, it's just a raid, and there's a 2, so they are going to raid. We already checked. Our Departamento Assassinorum is too busy killing each other off. The Loyalists breaking down along Loyalist and Rebel lines. And then we have paid to go away. If offered money, do this. If their role is more than you have to pay what's been asked, you have to buy off every company. The force will allow itself to be hired as paid allies if it rolls a 1 or a 2. So we check for black and white, and they will not be paid allies. Oh boy. Okay. We can pay them off to leave. And here's where I struggle. Paid to go away. If offered money, they roll a d8 times 100. But it doesn't say what happens if you don't buy them off. Like, what are they going to do if I don't pay them? And I think for the Machin, there's a 50% chance that they raid, take a city. They're not interested in taking several cities. Remember, these are the guys that are the tax avoiders. So I'm going to figure out, we got 2 forces coming in, and I'm going to roll the white die for number 1, and on a 1, 2, or 3, they're raiding. So they're both raiding. And that's important because the amount of forces that come to the party depend on whether or not they are normal or normal or making a big push. Oops, okay. So a normal force will be D8 infantry, 1 mounted for every 4 units and 1 artillery unit. Am I looking at that? You're right. Yeah, okay. So D8 infantry. So I'm going to roll D8 twice, once for 1, once for 2. And so that's going to be 8 and 7. Okay. So a total of 15. Let me write that down on my thing. So 8 companies, 7 companies. And along with the 8 companies, they're going to have 1 mounted unit and 1 artillery. So they're going to be plus 2 mounted, plus 2 arty. So these are pretty big raiding companies. So 7 companies, again, plus 2 mounted companies, plus 2 artillery. So a heck of a raid coming our way. And then for the Grey Horde, Those guys are on a page that I can't find. Here we go. They are, and they're doing normal, so we've got D8 mounted and D4 peasants. So I roll a D8 and a D4, and that's going to be, these guys are our virtual Mongols. So we got, that's a little better. So we've got two mounted, we've got 2 infantry companies, and then we have some technicals. That's why these guys are fun. Because 1 technical per 2 mounted, so he have plus the 1 technical, which, we upgraded their technical, didn't we? Oh, man, some people are just really ungrateful. And I think it's pretty obvious here what's going to happen. The Grey Horde is going to hit Damascus, and we've got 2 units of the Makkah, so they're going to hit, since they're raiding, they move to the nearest city. One's going to hit Scythopolis, so these guys can be bought off, but they're raiding Scythopolis. Ooh, this might work out really well for us. And these guys are going to raid Pella, because this is going to be a total of 10, and I'm not going to include the artillery. It's going to be 12 times a D8, and down here it's going to be, it's going to be 10 times a D8 to buy them off, and these guys are going to be 9 times a D8. I'll roll separately, so the rebels now have to pay 6,000 credits if they don't want to get raided by the Makkah. And we got to roll a D8, and 6 times 9 is going to be 5,400 credits. So they are already going to be in hock for 11,400, leaving them with just, and now I got to run 2 different numbers. So they were at 80 kilocredits, but because they have to spend this 80 minus 11 for buying off the hordes, and that's going to put them at just 69,600 credits. I said 80, yeah, there we go. So that's what they have to recruit defense forces to try and protect. And the disappointing thing here is, even if they're successful, oh man, my guys are still going to have to, they're going to raid, right? So that means they're going to have even less money next year. But when they go home, oh boy, bad things are going to happen. Maybe that provides an opportunity for us. The last thing we have to check for them is what month they're going to show up. Remember that these guys, we're going to roll for Makkah 1, we roll a d6 and add 4. That's the month of the year they show up. All right, so they're going to show up in the 8th month and the 10th month, so that is August. This is October, and then the Grey Horde are going to show up in July. But then both of these guys have the possibility of saying, oh, you guys are hitting in July? We'll move our plans up to suit. On second thought, they're going to be bought off. So they're not even going to show up. And I should probably be writing this. Yeah, this is what's going on in 29-4. So these guys would have been raiding the rebellion. But in addition to dealing with the rebellion, these guys are going to be hitting, well, we didn't say, did we? The Grey Horde, obviously Damascus. They are going to be raiding Damascus. Wow, Damascus is just not a great place to live. They are just taking a beating in this one. And they're going to be hitting in July, so we have a little bit of time. Now, unfortunately for our boys, remember, these 5 cities are black. They could have gone and hit Kanatha, but Kanatha is the capital. So maybe that's the thing to do, is hit the capital early. We're going to have to raid them hard, hit them heavy, but the rebellion kicks off. Oh, that's a good question. When does that happen? Let's roll a d6 to find out exactly when, because that will determine how much time we have to train up our forces on either side of the rebellion. So a 2. So the rebellion kicks off early in the year, and remember we said that there's like January, February, March. So did I write it down here? The Kanathan, and depending on who you're talking to, it's either the Regency or the rebellion happens in we'll call it February, okay? And so we have 5 months to prepare for the Grey Horde showing up. That's going to give us 5 months to try and beat up the usurper in Kanatha and maybe dispatch some forces over to Grasa. But the big thing is, I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to do a little research, and I'm going to say that the 3 units who were in Pella, remember, this is a loyalist stronghold, and wouldn't you know it, that's our engineer battalion, the really good artillery, and the attack aircraft. They go over to the rebellion. And what that tells me is that the rebellion probably has the backing of the Empire. And then remember, there were 2 support recovery batteries. See, there they are up there. So the Kaisan troops, these guys have energy weapons. Oh, man. Flak armor. And that's the other thing. Kanatha, this is where we researched the energy weapons. That means that the new units called up by the Kanathans are going to have the technological edge. The rest of our forces, who don't already have energy weapons, are going to be stuck building projectile weapons at Dion and Scythopolis. I know what you're thinking. Wait, these guys didn't get the plans? No, I'm sorry, that's a trade secret. All of the energy weapons, those were all built out of Kanatha. Although, now that I think about it, it might have been, maybe it was Damascus where we researched that? Be that as it may, we drew the red joker, so I'm just going to fall on that too. So the rebellion actually has the technological edge over the loyalists. Very interesting. Really interesting scenario here. I'm going to call it quits. We've been going at this long enough. I'm going to need to write up some battle plans and figure out, I need to redo my logistics page. These 10 cities are no longer in play. I'm going to rewrite this, breaking it out into the rebellion and the loyalists, as one does. I'm going to make an order of battle for the Kanathan Regency. I'm going to make up an order of battle, and I'm going to need to sit down and scratch my head and noodle out, what do each of these guys want to do as far as recruiting additional forces to help them defend themselves and maybe retake the enemy cities. Really complicated scenario here. Thankfully, we only have the one raiding party coming in, because if we had, boy, it's good that we beat up the Popular Front and the Tillian Republic. If we had rolled a bunch from the Wellian Supremacy, if we had had a major push, I think this campaign would have been over. But it's not. So we'll see you in a week with the next thrilling chapter of the early phases of that fateful year of the Decapolitan attempt at reestablishing the empire. Till next time, I'm praying for you.